Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Magoon Squad Show. So today it's not just going to be me. We have a special guest, Parker. Parker, say what's up to the show.
What's up to the show?
Okay,
Did I do good? I
yeah,
do
you
good?
did. You did great. That was great. So,
Yay.
so we're gonna dive into our first topic here, and our first topic is the takeaways from the European football this past weekend. Of course, we had a lot of games around a lot of leagues. We can go ahead and start with the Premier League. So the match on Saturday was kind of like the big heavy slate. You got Brighton and Man United. Of course, Brighton takes the win. What's going on with Man U? What do they have to do to get things going?
Oh man, it honestly same garbage they went through last year. They just fallen off a cliff. I don't know what it is. I don't know what they need to do. Their roster isn't awful, so I don't know what they need to really change.
But
But
is it good
they
enough to win games? It's not
it's obviously
awful.
not. They made improvements over the offseason, but they have not seen any substantial improvement yet. Now, I will say Brighton's not a bad club by any means.
No.
But regardless, Man U with the history and everything like that, that there's no reason why they should not be playing, better than that and being able to finish top four of the league and playing European football for next season. But yeah, I will say there was a lot of memes surrounding them after that loss yesterday.
Yeah,
But
yeah, that was tough. That was tough for
yeah,
Man U
they
fan.
got a lot of it last year as well. I don't know. I don't know if there's gonna be much improvement from this year, just based off of. I mean, we're only a couple weeks in, right? But uh,
Two games in so far.
yeah. But I mean, I don't know if we'll see them play European football next year,
Well,
based
my
off of how they're playing.
my thing is, it's not even just that for Man U. Do you think like it's not the players, obviously, like you said. Do you think it's just the expectation surrounding Man United that they've been such this prominent team for so many years that they expect to be a top five team, and that kind of gets to the players a little bit? Because Jaden
Oh,
Sancho,
100%, hundred
yeah,
percent.
yeah, because we could talk about Jaden Sancho. Me and you both know he played very well over at Dortmund on his loan, but he struggles when he plays for Man U. Of course, he didn't play this past weekend. But I mean, Scott McTominay didn't really show up too great when he got subbed in, and that's kind of their big sub, in my opinion, when he comes in and plays very well. And then of course they got Mathis Delete as well from Byron, which I don't think defense was their biggest concern right now. I mean, it is a problem, but I think it's also like offense, like moving the ball, um, and taking more chances.
Yeah, and I think younger positive looking players for him. Guys like Kobe Mainu, for instance, like those are bright points
Mm-hmm.
for him. But I mean, he's still a teenager at the end of the day. He's not going to be enough to will them over the hill. But you
No.
got guys like Mason Mount, being a Chelsea guy that I am, guy like Mason Mount that they paid an exorbitant amount of money for, and then past couple years he's been there and he's just done, you know,
Jack off.
niche. Like yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like he's done nothing to really help
Yeah, and
him.
I mean, if you're gonna pay
I don't.
64 million pounds for him, you kind of want more out of him,
Yeah,
personally.
and
But
same thing with Anthony. They've spent the money. They've been like you said, they're that history club. They're putting out the big bucks, bringing in these players that are established veterans already. They've got name to themselves, but then they're not performing. So I don't know. I don't know what the problem is at Man U. I don't know if it's a culture problem. I don't know if it's the expectations getting to them and they're not performing. I don't know if
well, do you
I don't
think?
know if ownership management. I don't know what it is.
Well, do you think Ten Hag was a good call to bring back after last year and everything going on, and all the fans wanting him gone, and then Man U decides to bring him back after releasing him, and then bring him back? What was it, like 2 days later?
I'll be honest. I thought he was gonna stay gone.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why they brought him back. I guess by that time, I don't remember exactly where over the year all that stuff went down. I don't remember who was available at the time or not. Um, but I don't know. Maybe they didn't think they had a better option to replace him at the time. I'm not sure, but he obviously did not perform last year. And when you're as big of a club as them, your expectation is to, you know, place top 4 in the league. You're
At
wanting
least
you're
for the spot.
right, yeah, you're wanting to confirm that you've got Champions League football for the following season, but honestly, you're wanting to be that top spot, and especially with Man City taking over the past few years, that Man U fans, which is basically all of Manchester, they just hate it. And they just keep seeing the other Manchester team just winning over and over. It
Yeah,
just hurts.
it's getting to them because then that's the expectation that they want them to live up to, because the other Manchester City, of course, is playing to the standard that those fans have them at. So it also falls on Man United fans to be like, well, if they can do it, why can't we with the team we have? Like
Yeah,
Marcus Rashford should
United's in the
be.
gutter. I don't know. I don't know, man.
And personally, me too. Like I know he's been hit or miss this year. Last year he played very well, and his rating was pretty solid last year. But I don't know. I mean,
Who's it?
Marcus Rashford. Rashford,
Oh, okay.
he's been playing pretty solid, but this year it's like I don't know if it's just a slow start or anything like that. But in the Community Shield game, his rating was a 6.5, and then it was a 6.7 in the Fulham game, and then another 6.5. So I don't know if that's because he's the type of player where his player rating should be around a 7. Every single game
Hmm.
he should be doing the things he needs to do to get to that rating, and he's really just underperforming, in my opinion, to where he's normally supposed to be at. So,
Right. Yeah, and I think them losing that Community Shield, the
and pins too.
the Manchester Derby, that was
Yeah,
again another painful experience for him. And I don't know. I feel like we said early in the season, things can change, things can flip around, but
for sure.
I just feel like they just keep getting beat down. They got to be deflated. So.
It's tough too because you lose to Man City, and then you're gonna have to play Man City again later on, and then I'm sure the expectation is to beat them, and then of course you're probably gonna come up short, unfortunately. But I mean, we don't know. We don't know. It could be a different Man U team by the time they play Man City, and I don't
Yeah.
know.
Who knows? But like I said, based off of last year,
It's not gonna be great.
there never was a huge turning point where things got really good for them. So I don't know if there's going to be much difference again this year. If I was to make a just bold prediction as far as where they place, I'd put them around, by the end of the season, I'll put around 6 or 7.
Middle of the
But
table, or a little bit above middle of the table.
yeah, just outside
Yeah.
of Europe,
Do you,
European ball.
yeah, I was gonna say, do you have them outside of the you know Champions League, of course, but you also have them outside of every European competition, just like finishing at like 6, 7.
Yeah, what's the top 4 is
Top four is
your
Champions League.
Champions League, 5
Yeah,
is Europa, 6
Europa.
is UECL. So
Yeah,
maybe they get the
Conference
Conference
League.
League.
Yeah,
Um, I think that's their feeling right now. Unfortunately for them, I know that United fans hate to hear that, but
well, and then some
that
of the other games on Saturday too that kind of stood out to me is like, for instance, West Ham. I thought they played great. In my
Mhm.
opinion, I think they played. And again, they allowed 14 shots, but then again, that's pretty average for a Premier League game. For each team.
Yeah, and only a couple of
Um,
them were on net, so
yeah, there was only 2 goalkeeper saves for West Ham, but I think that was the most complete 90 minutes from West Ham that I've seen in like a little bit. I haven't really seen them play a full 90 minutes with their defense playing that well. Of course, it was against Palace, but Palace, the way they ended off last year, I thought Palace would, kind of use that momentum from last year to keep going on to this year. So,
hmm
but
yeah, I mean, I like the West Ham squad ever since they got that oil money pumped into them. They were able
yeah,
to put some more funding into that club. They've
yeah,
been pretty good. They've been on the come up. They still got room to keep improving, but I mean, you look at their squad. That is a good team over there. So
yeah.
I don't know if you've seen for Lucas Paqueta what might potentially happen with him involved in those charges, the betting charge. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I've seen that. I'm not
Have
spec.
they come to a conclusion on him?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean,
Okay,
from what I remember, I think it's still pending. It's
okay.
still
Because I
being
know for
talked
a
about,
fact
but
Right. he's a very impactful player for him. That would be insane loss if that ends up becoming a
Yeah,
problem and Premier League suspends him for whatever amount of time would be.
because he even
He
played.
he helps run that offense.
Yeah, and with the betting charges, he even played in Copa America for Brazil, even with the
Yeah,
charges with
yeah,
them.
he's
So
still
I don't.
playing.
Yeah, I don't know what is going on. I mean, he might serve like a couple game ban maybe during the later on in the year if they come to a conclusion on that. But I mean, who knows what they're gonna?
Yeah.
It's different for every sport. Like NBA has their own thing. NFL, Calvin Ridley got suspended the entire year for betting,
Right,
so
yeah, and
it's completely different.
yeah, and I just don't know how strict the Premier League takes it, and I don't know how international soccer
Yeah.
takes it. I don't know how any of those guys take it. So, but if they can keep that squad together, Lucas does not get himself suspended for an
Mhm.
extended period of time, I think
Yeah.
they'll be just fine. They're looking good.
And then of course, I got the picture pulled up of him as well. Holland with the hat trick. I actually put a bet on him to score 2 goals. I didn't think he would get a hat trick. I thought he would. And to be fair, I didn't think a lot of the squad would play as much against Ipswich just because I thought they would probably maybe. I know it's a weekend game, so of course they play majority of the game just because they are their starters. But save some legs as well. Just because Mateo Kovacic went out with an injury, so try to save some legs and not play a full 90. But I mean, Holland, it was good for Holland just because he was already on that hat trick kind of pace. But I don't know. I think Man City, in my opinion, is the most unbeatable team this year. I mean, even with their subs, you got Real Madrid too. I just it really depends what Holland we get in the Champions League. But if we because but if we get the Holland that is world class at striking and not the one that plays a false nine or even just plays back a little bit, for some reason they had him playing back as a striker during those Champions. I don't know why. Like they brought up the wingers like Doku and Foden, or sorry, Foden and oh, I'm blanking on the other guy's name, Rodri. They would bring them up a little bit and play forward. I don't know why. If they go back to Holland, just you know meandering in the middle when they push it up towards the 18, I think we could see a different Man City team.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, that, like you said, that's their only hurdle,
Yeah,
is that just that final bit, and you need Holland to show up, like you said. That's their only problem. Other than that, I think they're definitely the team to beat. And them also bringing back Gundogan, that's huge
yeah.
to bring him back. He is an insane guy to just have on the team, even if he's not getting all the starting minutes at this point. But he's a big pickup for them to bring back, and I believe they brought him back for free. I think it was a free transfer back from Barca.
I think so because they got Savino as well in the off season,
Mhm.
who played very well in the Ipswich match. And Gundogan, let's see, did they get him for free? They got him from free from Barcelona. So
Yeah, because he was on the team, went over
uh,
there, and then came back on a free transfer. I mean, and one of the few teams where they didn't lose anyone of significant value and didn't replace him. Like they got better, if anything,
yeah,
which is crazy to say.
it is, and it's the same thing with Real Madrid, which we'll get into a little bit later. But moving on to our next two matches on Saturday before we get into Sunday, you got Tottenham.
Hmm.
I mean, showing up how Tottenham does. But my thing is like this is such a like, and I'm gonna just quickly cover this. This is such a false like win, if that makes sense, because this is the same thing Tottenham does. They'll lose like, they'll lose to Brighton, which or sorry, they drew with Leicester, but then they'll go and win 4-0, and then they'll probably their next match they'll either lose or draw again. It's so like different. They play Newcastle, and I technically on paper they should beat Newcastle. Just they have a better attack, not great defense, but I think they have a better attack than Newcastle in my opinion. That's just me, but they should outscore them. But it's gonna be one of those things where they'll show up for one game and then not show up the next. So
Yeah, I mean, I enjoy watching Tottenham not show up,
Yeah,
just like most
yeah,
everyone else. So I won't complain.
yeah. And then the next match that happened, which was the afternoon match for people here in America, it was Arsenal and Aston Villa at Aston Villa, of course. Arsenal with the 2-0 win. I mean, I think Arsenal has a very legit shot of winning the Premier League this year, even though Man City is the team to beat. I think if Man City runs into the same injury problems they did last year, Arsenal could be that Premier League champion like they've been so close to getting, but they've been, choking a little bit, finishing to get to that point. But I think with the players that they have and some of the new players that they brought in, I think this could be a very legit team to beat.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, once they brought in Arteta for the
Yeah,
manager position, you saw just the team turn around after it had been just struggling for years. And then last year, when they finally got over that hump and they were fighting for that first place spot for basically the entire season, um, big name that they brought in that really helped push them over the edge, in my opinion, was Declan Rice. And,
yeah.
obviously he's still on the team. I think he'll help them even more this year. And I like agree with you 100%. I think they fight for that number one position. They fight for the league title with Man City. And I don't have any bets on it. I don't know about you. But if I
No,
was
no,
a
no.
betting man, which I'm not, because I would be broke. I'd be very broke boy. But I think Arsenal's got a really good chance this year. I would put my money on Arsenal to get that number one over Man City, and I'd put City at number two.
Yeah, and I totally agree. I think the two teams for me to win the Premier League is literally just Arsenal and Man City. I don't really think Liverpool has that chance. I mean, don't get me wrong, Liverpool on Sunday, they did win 2-0 against Brentford. Uh not too bad. Great showing for them. 20 shots, had four big chances. Their expected goals was around 2.6, which again, they scored the two goals, so maybe should have got a third somewhere in there. Had a team rating at 7.3. I just think for me, they're a little too old in some of the areas to keep that pace throughout the whole season. And that's just me. They got Conte, Graven they got Ryan McAllister, Trent Alexander Arnold, guys like that, Luis Diaz, Diego Yota, who are guys who could step in. But I think I don't know. Virgil van Dijk, he still shows up, but it's kind of like one of those things. Can he keep that pace throughout the whole year? And then Salah is Salah. I mean, dude keeps his pace no matter how old he is. This dude is just, he doesn't age. It's crazy for him. But
Well, hey, he's got that new hair transplant, man. He's a new
yeah,
new man.
new man, looking
New
fresh,
era of Mo Salah. He's a brand new
looking
man.
fresh.
Nah, he's gonna do his thing. I think this team will be fine. Again, I don't think they fight for that number one spot. I'd put them at 3 or 4 over this season.
And before we get into our last Premier League match, I had a really interesting thought that and don't get me wrong, Allison is still very good, but he's also 31 years old, and I just was thinking to myself, if they have the money to spend, it would be a really interesting move now that Mbappe's out of PSG. That if they picked up Gia from PSG and put him on Liverpool to have a fresh new goalkeeper, I think that would be interesting, because a lot of these other clubs still have a very prominent goalkeeper that's not too old, over that like 31, 32 age, but not young. But you can get yourself, because I really don't think Gia should be on PSG right now. The league is really not worth playing for. But it would be interesting if Liverpool could be one of those teams. I don't think they get rid of Allison, but it was just a thing that I thought, hey, maybe they might go out and get a new goalkeeper, someone fresh.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not a crazy thing to say. I wouldn't say it's crazy. I just don't know if they want to. I mean, he's been their man in the back for
Mm-hmm.
what feels like forever now. I just don't know if they would want to mess with that. I know
I
he's been a
Yeah,
formidable stop for them. So.
I don't know, with Klopp gone, maybe they would want to take a new direction, maybe a different approach to how the team is, maybe a younger, fresher feel. But again, like I said, Allison's still playing great, and like you said, he's been there for forever. So
Hmm. Yeah, and to your point, like you said, Slot coming in, he's, in my opinion, Slot's done fine so far. The team's
yeah,
looking fine under him. So I mean,
yeah,
he's definitely was early to tell, but
definitely seems like a good selection for them. Pick up a new guy.
Yep. And then finally, I'm gonna let Parker take the floor on this one. Of course, Chelsea with a I have honestly never seen Chelsea play this great in a while. 6-2 win over, the Wolves, Wolverhampton. I haven't seen them play this great or score that many goals in a while, but bringing in João Felix, they look like a new team. I don't even know what the hell went on. I don't even know what happened, what I witnessed, but I'm going to let you take the floor cuz you're a Chelsea fan. I want you to just talk your heart out with this cuz that was a crazy performance right there.
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, that first half ended up 2-2. Both teams got a goal at the very end of that first half. But I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, Wolves played better in that first half. They had a lot of chances. They missed a lot of good chances. Chelsea had a couple stops there, but uh, they had some big opportunities that they just didn't capitalize on. Now, when it got to that second half, that was just pure clinical from Chelsea's end. The teamwork there between Palmer and Madueke. I mean, it was just top of the box, pass over to the right side, over to Madueke, just easy slot into the net. It just three times in a row. It was basically deja vu every one of those goals. It was very fun to watch. It's been a while being a Chelsea supporter that I've gotten to enjoy a big win like that. Now again, it's against Wolves, and you don't expect them to be amazing. But watching week one when they played against Man City, they lost 2-0. But honestly, they had a good showing in that game, especially being Enzo's first actual game for the club. Um, but I'm feeling good. I like Enzo so far as our new manager. I think he's doing a good job. I think he's done a really good job as far as making it well known that this is my club. I'm in charge of it. I'm gonna run it how I see fit. You know, Noni had a great showing. He got his hat trick, but he's had a little bit of an attitude problem. I don't know. Do you know anything about his little attitude problem that he's got?
He's got you know what? People call it attitude problem. I call it swagger. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I know last year the whole penalty kick debacle between
Yeah, yeah.
him and Palmer fighting for it, and Enzo basically came out this year and he made it very clear. He said, "I get to make the decisions, and as long as Palmer's on the field, he's who's taking it." Is basically what he said. But before this game, I don't know if you saw a little bit of drama from Madueke. He said he put something out on Instagram, and he said everything about this place is shit, and then had the Wolverhampton like location tagged on it,
Yeah.
which got swiftly deleted after that. But of course, that is going to anger an entire town. So he was booed
Naturally.
all game. Yeah, he
Yeah.
booed all game. But him being who he is, you can tell he definitely thrives and he fuels off of that hatred. He
Yeah,
likes that, work
I think
against
he
him.
has that swagger, I and like I said, it can be an
100%.
attitude problem, but I think sometimes and I can't believe I'm saying this because it's the stupidest reference ever. But like Jamie Tart on like Ted Lasso, he's kind of got that like swagger. He's like, I want
Yeah,
to be
it's same thing.
like I want to be that kind of guy to be like, I want to get in your head and like get you just live rent free in your head, and I want to stay there because I know if I stay there, we're gonna thrive. I'm gonna thrive, and
Yeah,
you're
and
gonna
I
make
think he
mistakes.
needs to back it a little more than he has been doing. But I mean, the performance he had this weekend was amazing. He backed everything that he needs to be back, and team had been potentially looking to get rid of him if he wasn't gonna straighten himself out. But after that performance, I don't see Enzo wanting to offload him at any time soon.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see, hopefully Enzo continues to do his thing and reel in the players and make it known that if you want to play for this club, there's a right way to play and you're gonna play as a team. But uh, great second half. They did great, and having Felix come in and score, his first game there, assisted by none other than Pedro as well.
Yeah.
Seeing the new guys, well, Felix is halfway new, but seeing
Yeah.
the new guys come in and get their fair share, even with their limited time on the field, was great. My only complaint that I have, and I think we've talked about this before, them having Sanchez as their starting Premier League goalie,
Yeah.
and what
Yeah.
they made is their current plan is they're gonna have him do the Premier League games, and then all of their tournament games is gonna be Jurgensen, and I
Jorgensen.
don't, yeah, I don't exactly agree with that, but maybe Enzo knows something I don't. I'm not sure.
I would want it
Yeah.
to be the other way around, but it kind of makes it sound like they're really valuing the UECL, if I'm saying that right.
Yep.
And they're trying to potentially win it. They got no reason
The
not to,
conference league.
honestly.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So I don't know. That's my only complaint that I have so far. But first 2 weeks, I'm very happy with how they're looking. I would like to see them fight for the number 4 spot um, over the season. Don't know if they're there yet, but I'm excited to see what turns out for them.
Yep.
Definitely excited. I think they do better than last year, 100%.
For sure. And then we're gonna rapid fire through the rest of these games before I get into the last kind of big question of the weekend. But real quick, just to cover some other topics and get Park and give a quick take on these as well. Barcelona got another win, 2-1, as you expect against Athletic Club. Uh, Obviously, Barcelona doing Barcelona things. Don't expect anything different. Uh, Also, and this one's gonna hit with Parker here a little bit. Milan struggling in Serie A so
Oh,
far. Yeah,
oh,
two straight
oh,
losses in a row against
oh.
teams that really against teams that they really shouldn't lose to. Sorry, not lost, but it was a draw. Um, but still a loss, technically speaking, to Milan and their fans, just because that's a game you cannot lose at home. And then of course they got Lazio coming up, which is not easy on the road. But looking at that, and just really quick take here, what do you think think's wrong with Milan right now? Why are they not on that pace that they're usually at?
Man, I got no idea. I don't know what they're doing not beating Torino and then them losing to
Parma, yeah,
just them losing to a just promoted team is just ah, dude, I don't know. It was painful to see that one happen. I didn't believe it at first because I was thinking, this I'm watching the wrong team. There's no way.
yeah,
I don't know, man. I don't. They just need to be better. I mean, there's no way, no better way to say it than they just need to be better.
yeah. And then real quick, going over to Bundesliga, you got Leverkusen finding a 90 plus 11 winner to continue that win streak that they were on even last year.
Good
Again,
old Leverkusen.
Leverkusen, exactly. Yeah,
Better late than never. They always get that last second goal, man. It's
they do. They
their
do. I don't
forte, their
know.
cup of
I don't
tea.
know how they do it. Sorry. Back to Serie A. Lazio also lost as well. Not really a shocker there. Lazio is kind of hit or miss every year to start the year. I'm sure they'll find their ground. That's going to be my biggest match coming up this weekend is Lazio Milan. It'll be interesting to see how these two teams play each other with the struggles of starting the year that they've had so far. I don't know. Do you see a Milan win or see them struggling again on the road?
Dude, I mean, based off the first couple of games, I think they'll struggle again. I want them to struggle? No, but if I'm being honest, I'll go Lazio wins 2-1.
Yeah, sounds about right, honestly. And then you got
That's my
Dortmund.
guess.
Then you got my team, Borussia Dortmund, winning 2-0 against Frankfurt. Obviously, a great start for the new manager in, and just overall, Gittins with the 2 goals as well. I'm not crazy with the new formation that we're running, the 3-4-2-1. I'm not crazy with that with the three backs. I usually like to have that four back that we usually run, but again, uh, new manager. Again, we played great, so I can't complain. It's just a little different for me not seeing four backs back there. I know we have, a couple of them drop off on defense, but again, for me, I know that's kind of like the meta right now, and soccer is running a three back, kind of like Man City and other teams that do that. But I don't know, it's a little different for me. I got to get used to it as a fan, but I don't know. Dortmund, what do you think their chances are this year? Do you think you like them? Top four in the Bundesliga with Leverkusen and Bayern. What do you see for
Oh
them?
yeah, 100%. I mean, if they're not top four, if they're not playing Champions League next year, then something went terribly wrong. I think
Yeah,
they'll be
yeah,
just fine. I don't think they beat Bayern. I don't think they beat Stuttgart. I don't think they beat Leverkusen. I'd give them 4 on the year. I'd give them fourth overall.
yeah. And I'm okay with that too as a fan. I'm not hating that. And then, of course, you got Porto, who's been on a roll with Portugal as well. Then Benfica, Sporting, Porto, Braga, Benfica, those guys are always going to do well in the Portugal League, as well as PSV with a 7-1 win over Almere City over in Netherlands. Of course, PSV, always that, Champions League team over there. I don't know what the struggle is with Ajax. Ajax has been very hit or miss. Not having. I don't even know. Not having won a game. I don't really know what to say with Ajax. They were a really sorry. They did win their Europa game, but I'm talking about their league game. They haven't really won. I think they won their first one by 1-0, and then they lost 2-1 to a team they shouldn't have lost. And then they played Feyenoord coming up. I think they lose that one. Honestly, I don't really know what to say about Ajax, but they're so hit or miss. They're so inconsistent. I don't even know what's going on. But and
Yeah, I
then
agree with everything you said there.
and then moving on to the Sunday matches, you got Napoli with a big 3-0 win after losing their first one again to a team that they probably should have beaten too. Same situation with Milan. Verona's not bad, but the Napoli should not have lost to them. Atalanta lost to Torino as well. I don't really know what to say about that either. I guess Torino is better than everyone thinks because they're beating very good teams right now. um, Fiorentina drawing with Valencia, and then AC Roma, losing to Empoli. I don't know. Do you think with they got Artem from Atletico Madrid? Do you think they were better off with Lukaku or Artem from Madrid, Atletico Madrid?
Who are we talking about?
Roma.
Oh, okay. I thought you were talking about Napoli because
No,
that's
no,
who.
no, because they still have
You mentioned you
Osimhen.
mentioned Lukaku,
Yeah,
and I was like,
yeah. No,
well,
no, yeah,
being the Chelsea guy that I am, I want him to go over there. I don't care where he goes.
yeah.
So I'm biased though. So anything I say is gonna be very biased.
Well, I've heard some very interesting rumors surrounding Victor Osimhen too, because he's currently not playing right now for Napoli. I've heard that he's probably going to get transferred. I'm not really sure where. I'm pretty sure he's going to get. I've heard he's going to get transferred to Chelsea. That's what I heard. I heard that Napoli wants Lukaku and then some money for Osimhen. That's what I've heard, at least from another Chelsea fan that
Yep,
keeps up
yeah.
with them.
So
That's the speculation.
Lukaku going over to Napoli. I don't remember the exact dollar amount, and
Yeah,
then Osimhen coming the other way with some more million being paid back towards Napoli because obviously he's more valuable.
yeah,
But the problem is, I don't think it's going to happen. I think Lukaku goes there regardless, but I think Osimhen, I don't think he goes to Chelsea. He's asking for 500K a week, which
oof, yeah,
Chelsea's just not going to pay that. I mean, if he wants to get paid that, he needs to go over to Saudi. He needs to go over to the Camel League if he wants to get
yeah,
paid that.
yeah.
Because no one else is going to be paying that kind of wage. Also, Chelsea wants to bring him in on a loan deal, which I don't agree with. I think that'd be kind of silly to do that.
Yeah,
Just bring him in as a permanent transfer, in my opinion. And I don't blame Osimhen. He doesn't want to come over on the loan either. So I
yeah,
don't think he
no,
comes over to Chelsea, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah. And then a couple more of the matches on Sunday as well. You got Byron winning 3-2 against Wolfsburg, scoring a late one in the 82nd minute. Again, kind of like last year. I don't know if you remember last year. Byron kind of struggled, even though they found the wins. They kind of
Hmm.
struggled against some teams that they shouldn't struggle against. Wolfsburg being one of them. I mean, is that something you think we're going to see throughout the year with them again, or do you think they're going to find their pace a little bit and then pick it up?
For their own sake, I hope they pick it up because their team is way too good. Their team is way too talented to not be the best team in that league.
Yeah.
So hopefully for their sake, they figure it out. Um, I don't know what needs to really change for them aside from just being better. I mean, honestly.
Yeah.
So maybe Elise having him come over, maybe he'll be that difference maker for them. I think did he score? No, he didn't score for him this past weekend,
Yeah,
but
he did. He
hopefully
did.
hopefully he comes over and is that difference maker for him. But another year for Musiala, he's just gonna get even better. So
Yeah.
I think, I mean, it's the Harry Kane curse, man. I don't know what you're gonna do about
Yeah, it's
it.
tough. It's tough.
They
But
just got to get rid of
finally,
Harry Kane. They'll be fine.
before we get into our next topic here on the show, I just wanted to really touch on the big one that I did skip over in La Liga. It's Real Madrid winning 3-0, but again, a scoreless Mbappe, a scoreless and assistless Mbappe. Do you think that's just him trying to get acquainted with his new team and his new players around him, or do you think this is like it's just one of those things that's not working out so far? And because I'm people are not panicking yet, and that's a safe, fair assessment, you know. Uh, but Real Madrid, drawing with Betis, and then of course, or sorry, not Betis, but drawing their last one. I was looking at the wrong game. I was scrolling up, but drawing their last match, winning this one at home, of course. Do you think Mbappe has just not found his rhythm yet, or do you think he needs to get acquainted with his new team? What's kind of your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, as far as him getting on the scoreboard, is that what you're meaning? I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
I think he'll
You
be
know,
fine. Just
normally,
give him a little bit of time.
yeah,
He's so far in his career, club career that is, he's always been the guy. He is the one and only guy basically, so he can just perform. Even when PSG had Neymar and Messi, he was still the guy up top, and you could tell that they were running it through him. Uh, this Real Madrid team, if you ask me, they didn't need Mbappe. They're obviously the best team in that league, and they had everything they needed. Um, but the team is so good, it doesn't necessarily have to run through him. Like they have so many other options on that team that they can
sure.
perform, and they got a guy like Indrick coming in who's going to be insane. He already is insane, and
Yeah,
he's
already
a
scored.
child.
Yeah, already
Yeah,
scored in the last match as well.
right, and he scored after he came in for Mbappe even. So
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think he's definitely not going to put up the stats that he put in that farmers league that he was in, but I think he'll be fine. It's just not going to be centered around him as it had been before. I think that's the
Well,
only difference.
my biggest thing is my biggest question coming into him going to Real Madrid was, can he mesh well with Vinny Jr.? Vinny is a very type of guy that has that ego, and like everything should run mostly through him kind of play type. He is like the player on that team last year, but now with Mbappe sharing the spotlight, do you think that's something you think they can do together, share that spotlight, or is it one of those things where
Yeah,
it's just
I could definitely see a power struggle, and that was one of the things that I was thinking about for the past couple years. When is Mbappe going to Real or not? Is he staying at PSG? Is he going over there for free? That the whole thing going back and forth, and I'm thinking, man, at this point, it's gonna be toxic. It's gonna be a cancer coming over kind of
yeah,
thing. It's got too much drama associated with it. So yeah, I could definitely see there being a bit of a power struggle going on between him and other players, or him and the club as a whole, if he's not finding the back of the net like he's used to. I could see that coming up, but I think if they just continue to win, they continue to do their thing, which I think they will have no problem doing that.
yeah,
I think they'll be okay. I think they'll get over their personal, uh, I guess, qualms.
yeah. All right, well, that covers pretty much everything this past weekend. Moving on to our next topic, though, and this one is kind of what touches home for us a little bit. You got Nashville SC again looked awful against Austin FC, even with their new manager coming in as well. Uh, I just want to kind of get your thoughts, Parker. Like, where is our direction right now? Because I personally, I think we just need, and this sounds really bad. I think we just need a fresh start with the newer manager. I think all these old players still in here. I think we could use a fresh, start. What's in some positions. Um, that's just me though, and I really don't. I don't hate Hani Mukhtar playing back a little bit in that center forward position, kind of like a cam that we played him in last match, or like a center forward. I liked him when he was at striker more often than not, but I think if we're gonna have a striker, it should be Sam. Like it shouldn't be shared with Schaffelberg. I think if anything, we should put Sam up front, put Schaffelberg and Haney behind Sam. That's just me. Uh, I don't really know what your thoughts are, but I just think we need a fresh start, a new face with a new manager. That's just me though.
Yeah, well, before I get into it, imagine you got a mountain, and at the very top of this mountain, you got you got a rock, and up on top of that rock is a monkey holding a baby lion. Yes, I'm referencing the Lion King. Now imagine that little baby lion is the team. Instead of holding it up, just chuck it. Just
Yeah.
let it go.
Yeah.
And they the team is old. They need to blow up some of the positions. They need to do some reanalysis at some of the positions 100%. Bringing in a couple young guys like they did since they got BJ in as their new manager hopefully goes well. Yazbek coming over from Australia. Hopefully he helps us. Did you hear about the predicament that came up with him in his
I
first
did
MLS
not.
game over the
I did
weekend?
not.
So Yazbek, he got pulled off early. He said something during the game to someone on Austin. Referee stopped the match, pulled both the captains, talked to both of them, then went over and talked to the benches. And then a
Mm.
couple minutes later, Yazbek gets pulled from the game. After the game's over, NSC put out a statement saying that they're aware of what was it? Abusive language or that kind of misconduct, and they're looking into it. So Yazbek, he said something. I don't know what he said, but he said something that the ref got pissed off about. Did not like whatever he said, and he got pulled from the game swiftly about it. So now the league is doing their own due diligence investigation on it. If you ask me, he's Australian guy coming over. I think we both know there's a couple words that those Australians like to say that don't
Yeah.
go over well in the U.S.
Yeah.
My guess is he said one of those.
Yeah.
So, like I said, he's one of the brand new young guys we brought in. Hopefully, he helps the team. But first and foremost, he needs to be PR trained in the U.S. ways because that kind of
Yes.
stuff's not going to fly over
Yes.
here. And hopefully, he understands the severity and importance. Because if not, then bringing in a young guy like that's not going to, mesh is obviously not going to work. But hopefully, bringing him in midfield helps. Another young guy they brought over recently came over from LA. He's currently on loan for us. Was Perez. Hopefully he does well for us. I believe it's a loan to buy option, so
Yeah.
hopefully he continues to
Jonathan
do well.
Perez. Yeah.
Yeah, he did well when he came in for Yazbek. Hopefully he continues to do well in that role. Um, so midfield wise, that's our biggest need in position. Going back to what you were referring to with the forward group, I
Yeah.
like Hani Mukhtar in the number 10 position. I like him in the cam. I think that's
Yeah.
where he
Yeah.
thrives most, being the playmaker. So that's where I like him myself.
For sure. I agree.
Schaffelberg, I like on the wing more. Schaffelberg's really good at dishing those balls into the center. He's much more of that crossing, run down the line, make those runs sort of play style. He's not a guy to stand up at top and just sit. He needs to be able to open up his legs and move. That's where he
Yeah.
thrives. And go back and watch what he did at the Copa America for Canada, and that's how he played. And he loved it. He did great. Now the odd thing is with Sam Surridge, I don't know. He's obviously a guy up top, but during the um, international play when Schaffelberg was gone, they had Sam playing out on the wing, and Sam actually did really good on the outside. So I don't really
Yeah.
know. Um, I don't know what their option would be. Boyd is gone for the rest of the year, obviously, he with his injury.
Yeah.
I don't think they can bring anyone else in at this point. But maybe if you had Mukhtar staying at the number 10 spot, put Surge over on the right, Schaffelberg on the left, and then man, go ahead and throw a Jago, Forrester. Go ahead and throw him up
Yeah.
at that
Yeah.
center
Because we always
forward
sub
position.
him
Put
in
him up at
so late,
striker.
you know?
Yeah, and I definitely think he's better than some of the guys we got starting. I don't think Teal. I don't think he has a spot on the team. Anunga. I don't think he has a spot on the team. Muil.
Mule's got to go, bro. Mule's
He
got to go.
he's
I
he
hate.
kills in offense. He's not bad, but the problem is when you get him going on offense, he just kills an entire play.
He's
Like a perfect
literally
opportunity, he just whiffs.
he's literally the American version of the MLS version of Harry Maguire. Great at defending. Horrible
Yeah,
offense.
but
Horrible.
McGuire is a defender. It at least makes sense.
Yeah,
Muil is
yeah.
supposed to be a midfielder.
Mule's exactly supposed to be
So I
best,
don't
sort of
know.
best of both.
Right. Moore, I'm happy with him. Zimmerman, I'm happy with him. I feel bad for Zimmerman. Obviously, he's got a lot on his shoulders, and there's
Josh
not much he
Bauer's
can
been a
do.
pleasant surprise too.
Bauer's done really well.
Yeah.
Which Jack Mayer, I thought he was gonna, come in over the past couple of years, and he was gonna be that guy for us. But he's he's struggled all this year. Not
If we
having
get,
McNaughton, I mean
yeah,
that's tough. I really liked McNaughton and Zimmerman together.
I
That
did
they were
too.
a dynamic duo. They were hard to beat.
Yeah.
And then out on that far left side, Lovitz. He's
Yeah,
definitely, you can definitely tell the age is getting to him.
yeah,
So I think that midfield, get that midfield younger, get a whole new squad in there, and then I think we need a new true left back, or at least someone different over there.
yeah,
Um, BJ's only a couple games into his very short time with the squad, so I'll give him time. He's definitely got a lot on his plate. He's brought in, like I said, a couple of new guys already. He's trying to make it into his own club. He's been trying new formations, new lineups. But he's definitely got his work cut out for him. I'll tell you that. So he's still searching for his first win with the club. So lost the first game, drew the second one, lost it in PKs because of how they have the Leagues Cup tournament set up, and then they just lost a couple days ago, 2-0, obviously. So they got a few games left in the season. Hopefully they find themselves in the win column, but they're 7 games removed from a win at this point.
yeah.
It's getting bad.
It is. It
So
is. It's getting. You
uh,
can definitely tell in the environment of the crowd as well. It's getting a little frustrating. But
oh yeah, going to the games, the less people are showing up. People are getting frustrated. It's not a good time for Nashville SC right now.
another frustrating fan base for some people in the fan base, a little bit myself as well. Moving on to the next topic is Yaroslav Askarov. Of course, finally got what he wanted. He did get his trade out of Nashville to the San Jose Sharks in return for some prospects and picks, a first round pick being one of them. Uh, I'm just gonna let Parker go ahead and kind of give his initial thoughts and his thoughts on the trade, and then I'll save mine for after. But Parker, what'd you think about the trade, and where does that kind of put the Predators' future at as far as you know? UC Saros is around that 29, 30-year-old range. Uh, is it where's the future going for when Saros is done?
hmm Yeah, I guess I'll also go from the beginning. I mean, we knew Askarov. He was probably going to be traded. No way he was going to sit around in the minors for a few years while Saros got his big long extension until he's in his late 30s. It's they needed to trade him. I think Askarov making that trade announcement public and that request public, that definitely forced the issue, and if anything, that hindered the leverage that the Preds had. So their return maybe wasn't as great as it was supposed to be, or as
Yeah,
much as they were wanting. Maybe they were hoping that Askarov would play a good amount of the season in the AHL, help his value a little bit more, even though his value is already insane. Maybe help it a little bit more.
yeah,
Um, but I think the return that uh, they got a goalie in return that's just going to be an AHL level goalie. Krona's not going to be someone that's contending for us right now. We got Saros in net, and then Wedgwood's his backup. Krona is just going to be a guy that we shoved down in the AHL for now. Edstrom, the forward we got, 1 year removed, first round draft pick. He'll be fine. I think he's a middle six kind of forward.
top
But
six
the
ish.
thing,
Yeah,
no, I
or
think he's
no,
middle.
even middle
I think
six.
he's yeah, I
Okay.
think he's middle
I've
six. I
heard
think
I've
he's
heard
second or
top
third
six
line.
from some people, so that's what I was like.
Yeah, I mean, I would love that, but I think he's middle six myself.
Gotcha.
But he's only 19, 1 year removed from being drafted. He's not going to play for us for a couple years minimum. So he's not going to be an immediate piece for us. And the thing is, with us going and signing Saros, that big deal, we go bring in Brady Shea, Steven Stamkos, Jonathan Marchessault. We're definitely in win now mode. And we traded Askarov, who would have been a future goalie for us. We're definitely in win now mode. So I don't know if bringing in David Edstrom is a help to us necessarily in our current goals. The one thing I will say that we got out of it that will help us for sure is that first round draft pick for next year. We now
Definitely.
own we now own 3 draft picks in that first round, 2 in the second round. We got 5 picks in those first 2 rounds. I think Barry Trotz would be crazy to not leverage that heavily throughout the season and at the trade deadline, depending on how we're looking. You offer 1 or 2 of those, dangle those in front of somebody, you could get a very pretty trade piece from a team that's struggling and could use the future assets. So that's my hope. Um, the the trade as of today doesn't look amazing. We'll see over the next, we'll say 3 or 4 years how it looks. If the Preds end up, pulling it off over the next couple of years, then they'll be very happy with this trade. If they go in the gutter, Saros doesn't perform, for the first 4 or 5 years of his extension, and Askarov is just doing great for the Sharks, then everyone will look back and say this was a very, very poor trade on the Preds'
Yeah.
part. But
Yeah.
I think jury is still out to be decided, but up front, it's not a beautiful trade. That's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, and I personally hated the trade. Was huge against that. Askarov was like my future. I thought that was going to be our future. And my thing was, and I totally get it, he didn't want to play behind Saros, and I totally get it. But you could have just played a backup role for a year or two and then gone to play in our starting position if it didn't really work out with use. But my thing is like the tough part about it is like we're stuck, and this is where again, Barry Trotz, I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing because this is the first kind of year that we'll see if he knows what he's doing with his, he's full control now, Everything he did this offseason was all him. My thing and my biggest, concern is all the non-trade clauses that we signed to all these players. I mean, Steven Stamkos, I believe, has a non-trade clause. Uh, Jonathan Marchessault has a non-trade clause. Brady has a non-trade clause. I believe does Hughes have one? They didn't say in
Yeah,
his
he
contract. He does.
Saros got a no movement one, I'm pretty sure.
No
So
movement.
that
Yeah,
that's the yeah, that's the
that's
biggest
just
difference so far
yeah,
between him and Poyle. The difference in how the general managers are running the team.
yeah,
Poyle never really gave out those sort of no movement clauses.
yeah,
He gave them out to very limited players.
and we're stuck. We're
Cross is
stuck.
coming out here and
You
giving
know,
them, and I'm not sure how that's gonna go, especially considering they're all 30 plus years old.
yeah,
So we're
because
gonna
Forsberg's 30 has a no movement clause. Stamkos 34 no movement. Jonathan 33 no movement. Roman Yossi 34 no movement. Still has 4 years left on his contract. Brady no movement, no trade. 7 million for the next 4 years as well. UC Saros no trade as well. So it's 5 million this year, and then it goes up to 7.74 for the next
Mhm.
three. So I mean, we still have 4 years on every single one of these guys. Jonathan, Steven, Phillip, Yossi, Brady, and Hughes all have 4 years left on their contract.
Yep,
And
yeah, and that's why I'm saying our current window, we got three to
yeah,
four years.
yeah,
After that, it's gonna be very difficult.
it's gonna be
So
rough. It's gonna be really rough. And my thing is, I don't mind if that's how you sign them. I don't mind you giving, these guys a no movement clause. But my thing is, don't give a guy who's 34 years old and 33 years old a no movement clause, right? It makes sense for Forsberg, right? He'll be 34 when he's done. That's the same age as Stamkos. That makes sense. Okay, I get it. But when you give Stamkos, who he's going to be 38 by the time his contract's up, Jonathan's going to be 37, Roman Yossi's going to be 38. It's like, where does that make sense? How does that make sense? How are you going to give a guy that's going to be almost 40 years old? It's just like it makes no sense to add that to guys who are that old. If they don't want to come here without that, then tough luck. It's
yeah,
what
I
it
think the
is.
thing that what they're banking on is you get those good 3 to 4 years. You get a couple finals appearances, hopefully a cup in there. That is the ultimate goal, obviously. And if you win the cup and if you get there, a couple times, you make it to that last round a couple times.
Yeah.
I think the club as a whole, and I think the city as a whole, they will take the trade off of having those amazing 3 or 4 years and winning it all, and then not being good for a couple years after. I think they'll gladly take that trade off, opposed to the just mediocre, just middle of the pack that we've been for so long. I think that's the current plan. Now,
And
again, that's a big gamble, and you have to win. Otherwise, this is going to look very, very bad in a few years.
and the other tough part for me about all this is our cap space right now, currently before the Askarov trade was 3 million. If we didn't have all this dead cap from our fantastic general manager putting us in this dumpster fire, that is $11 million in dead cap. With Duchesne, Johansson, Torres, and Matthias Ekholm still being paid on our payroll. If we would have had at least, I don't even know if we would at least had 7 million of that, or maybe even 5 million of that. We probably could have traded Askarov for Mitchell Marner at Toronto and given them a nice young goaltender for a guy who would be a great top forward for us with the team. We could have done that, but since we have so much dead cap space and we only had 3 million, there was really like you were saying. I think with him making it publicly requesting for a trade, lost some of the leverage, and then not only that, we couldn't get anybody that's worth it, and we still can't. Like even with those draft picks, they would either have to retain some of the contract or we would have to trade a player with our picks in order to clear up some cap. And the only guy I can really see us trading is like Gus Nyquist maybe, or even Tommy Novak, who's 3.5 million, to even clear up enough cap to afford some of these players.
Yeah, and that's not even going to mention the fact that Tomasino and Parsonen, who are both restricted free agents, neither of
Or
them have
not
their
signed.
contracts
Yeah,
yet. Yeah, and
not
they'll
signed
probably
either.
they're not going to get a crazy amount. They'll get maybe 1 million each. But the with the trade request coming out at the time that it did, we didn't have any sort of available money to get anyone large. So being a team that's in win now mode and we're only able to grab futures is definitely not a good look. I will say, building off of that though, with all the dead cap space that we have for players that we bought out or traded, with that 50% we're retaining from Ryan Johansson, we got $4 million of dead
Cleared up.
space right now.
Yeah.
But the thing is, if his contract does get terminated by the Flyers, that 4 million's gone, which gives us what, instead of 3 million, we got 7 million now worth of cap
We'll
space.
be exactly at just a little over
Yeah,
7.1.
yeah, then take account Parsonen and
But
Tomasino at
yeah, and
two
then it'll
million each. That puts
five
us at
mil.
5 million worth of cap space. That at least gives you a little bit of leverage, a little bit of leg room to work with at the trade deadline. At the trade deadline, you got 5 mil or so. Maybe give away someone that's worth a couple mil as well. Say you're roughly up to 7 million worth of space. You offer them one of those first or second round picks that we got, maybe even two. Maybe you're able to get a deal working with someone that's actually of value. But that's, again, you're relying on Johansson to get his contract terminated by the Flyers, which is currently in limbo. There'll be a legal battle off of that one. So
Yeah, and that's a really tough thing, and one of the things that we could focus on getting, and I'm just looking at some of the contending teams. A lot of their contract players are up because they're in more of a win now mode, and which makes a whole lot of sense, right? But
Mhm.
you got like Jonathan Drouin, 2.5 million. Of course, he has the no trade clause, unfortunately, but he is going to be a free agent next year, which you could pick up. But guys like him, that's sort of a top six forward, would be really nice to have. I think our biggest struggle right now, and just looking at our team, because technically we have six defensemen. We only have five on our payroll right now. We have Yossi, Brady, Carrier, Shin, Fabro, and Lazan. And I think it must have been really recent, but we didn't have who am I blanking on? We didn't have Shin signed earlier. I'm pretty sure we just signed him, right? Or was it not
Nah,
Shin?
Shin was the 3-year contract.
Okay.
Carrier we signed over the offseason. He
That's
got his new
that's who it was,
contract.
yeah, because it was still unrestricted free agent. My thing is, from what I'm seeing, is that we're still a little thin at defense. In just my opinion, it's not a crazy good defense. It's like Roman and Brady, and that's kind of it. I think we could use another defenseman in the trade deadline. Uh,
Yeah, I would agree. Both Roman and Shea, both of those guys are right defensemen. Now, I mean, Yossi can be mobile with that, but I would like to see them both playing on the left. I would like to see us pick up a right defenseman if possible, but I don't know off the top of my head if there is a big name right defenseman that's a pending UFA that we could go and get. But I would like to see that have big number one right defenseman on the right side. Let Shea play on the second line with Carrier. That's what I would like to see, but I just don't know what our options are for right
well,
defenseman right now.
and honestly, for a team who's trying to get a fresh new look with their new squad at Utah, I think we could take advantage of taking some. I know Mikhail Sergachev just went over there, and so did a couple other players. But I mean, even getting a guy like Sean Jersey over in, because he's a right D. I think
Hmm.
getting him over from Utah with a couple of our picks could be something worth exploring. I think
Yeah, if we
it's
could get
six.
someone that's more than a just a rental, that would be amazing.
Yeah, and it's
I just don't
6 million,
know
and
that
I get it,
possibility.
but it's tough. It's tough with the cap space for sure.
Yeah, I mean, we got two defensemen that we're paying first line money, and then all the rest we're paying basically 2 million each
Yeah,
on average. So
yeah.
we're definitely lacking that 3 to 4 spot on defense, and our payroll even shows it. So I think we need to pick up someone. It's just a matter of who is that someone.
Yeah. All right, moving on to our next topic. Of course, we had the big week 0 going on in college football. As you saw, the big upset that happened with Florida State and Georgia Tech. Obviously, I'm not going to lie. I'm not saying I don't think Georgia Tech could win. We all knew Haynes King was a decent quarterback. He showed it last year as well. Uh, there's just a lot of question marks coming around DJ. DJ coming from Oregon State. Obviously, he struggled when he was at Clemson, had to transfer to Oregon State to get another starting job, and then came to Florida State from Oregon State to now be back in the ACC, and obviously struggled again. Um, do you think Florida State, this was just a one-time thing and it just didn't really work out, and they need to find their rhythm with their new squad because a lot of new faces on this team with transfers, or is this something that Florida State's going to struggle with throughout the year?
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty new team, like you said. They definitely had a good amount of turnover and turnover at very important positions. I don't think DJ is the guy. He did not perform well at Clemson, went over to Oregon State, and he still did not do amazing in
Yep.
a conference that is known for letting QBs thrive, and he still didn't do any better than he had before. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he's going to be the guy to help them win games in the long term for the year. But I mean, they don't have any better of an option. I think it's going to be a difficult year for him. I don't think it's on the coach's head necessarily. I think the team is just not the same that they were. Um, I'm blanking on the coach's name now. I know his name, but I can't remember it. What's
Which coach are we talking about?
Florida State's name?
Norvell.
Norvell, yeah,
Yeah,
Mike
Norvell.
Norvell.
Yeah.
There was fans calling for his head after the game, claiming that it was all his fault. Oh, you guys are 1 year removed from a perfect regular season, and they were after his head.
Yep.
I don't think it's his fault. I just don't think the team is that good. I don't think it's Georgia Tech being good. I think it's Florida State being bad.
Yeah.
That's my
Well,
personal opinion.
and do you think with other teams, with newer players as well, of course, Alabama and their new coach, and a couple other teams that have a lot of new fresh faces coming in from the draft, do you think we could see bigger upsets as well, kind of like that, like an unranked team beating them? I mean, I'm thinking Alabama could be a victim of one of those upsets as well, just because there's a lot of new stuff going on with that team, and it's just it's a change for one team in a year.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Alabama, like you said, they had brand new coach come in. It's a big loss losing Saban. Like, there's no one you're going to replace Saban with that's going to be able to
No.
do what Saban has done. And then transferring out basically an entire team, and then plus some because everyone went there to play for Saban. I don't blame
Yeah.
them, but they left when Saban left. But they don't got a easy year in front of them. They got Georgia, they got Tennessee, they got Missouri, they got LSU, they got Oklahoma, and it's not a hard game, or it shouldn't be, but they find a way sometimes to make it difficult. They're playing Auburn as well,
Yeah,
so they
that's what I
got
was gonna
games
say,
in
man.
there. Uh, I'll be interested to see how they perform. It could go any of either direction. I don't know with them, but they're definitely a team to pay attention to as far as, are they going to perform or are they not? I don't know.
And
And I think these fans have been spoiled for so long, they're not going to put up with them not being good.
and that's what I talked about on another episode as well. The expectation for Alabama, right? If I'm
Hmm.
an Alabama fan with all this new stuff going on, I'd be happy just to make the college football playoffs. If we make the college football playoffs, that's a win in my book. That is a great, successful year with a great new program and a new way that Kellen wants to bring his philosophy in. I think that's impressive to say the least if he gets him there. I think they're gonna get there? Not really. But I can just tell you right now, Tide fans, if they do not make the college football playoffs or even the SEC champ, it's going to be one of those such uncanny feelings that it might not just sit well with them at all.
Oh yeah, they're gonna riot. They're gonna go crazy. I
Yeah.
I don't know how they'll react, honestly. So
And then finally, getting into our last topic, which we'll touch on a couple of other teams as well. You know, you got Georgia opening up against a strong Clemson team, and when I say strong, I mean strong enough to compete with Georgia in some ways. I don't think they'll compete with the whole game. Maybe just like a first half compete, it'll look close, but then Georgia will kind of run away with it, kind of normally how they do it. Um, you know, I mean, for Georgia, this is a good test for them. There's a lot of, as a fan of Georgia, you know, I'm sure you were upset by the SEC championship loss to Alabama and Saban, and of course, that felt like something you guys probably should have won. Uh, and there's just a lot of those question marks, like, is this the year where you're gonna have that bounce back year? Are you gonna find that rhythm again to get back into that swing of things that you guys have been normally in with Kirby Smart with a tough schedule coming in?
Yeah, I mean that loss last year in that SEC championship, I mean they were so good at shooting themselves in the foot against
Yeah.
Alabama ever since Kirby Smart's been the coach. He's done great for the team. He's done a wonderful job. Won whole thing 2 years in a row. Last year they were looking to make it a three-peat. They were looking like they were gonna make it possible, and then they shot themselves in the foot. Because of that, they don't make the playoffs and they don't even get the opportunity. I think this year they're definitely going to come out hungry. They know that they were that close and they know that they should have been there and that it was their own fault that they didn't make it. So I think they're going to come out hungry. They'll come out hopefully real strong against Clemson. Carson Beck coming in for his last year. He's got the experience under his belt now. I think he'll be a force to reckon with. But they don't got an easy schedule. They got Clemson, they got Kentucky, Alabama, they got Mississippi State, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee. Those aren't easy teams in my opinion. So they got a difficult schedule, and I mean they're at Alabama, they're at Texas, and they're at Ole Miss. Those are all hard games. Those are not easy wins. So they definitely got their work cut out for them. Last year the schedule ended up working out in their favor. This year I don't think it will. So if uh, if they're gonna be the champions, if they're gonna go all the way, if they're gonna win the SEC, if they're gonna win the whole thing, they definitely will have to earn it this year, and they definitely have to prove it. I feel good about them, but I guess time will see. I'm excited for this week 1 game. I'll say.
Well, finally getting into our last little things here. I mean, so my biggest question, and I've asked Bobby this on another episode, and I kind of want to ask you this as well. Where do
Okay.
you see Texas with the SEC? Week in and week out, Texas has not had to play a tough opponent, and when I say tough, I do mean like Kentucky, Auburn, Mississippi State, Arkansas, teams that still bring the competition to a ranked team. As with the Big 12, there's some teams that can't really bring that competition. And by all means, Kentucky's not an easy win. Sometimes Auburn's not an easy win. Arkansas, some years are not an easy win. And just with their schedule, you got at Arkansas, Florida's not an easy win. I mean, teams like that, what's the thing that Texas has to do differently? And like, what's your expectation? Where do you see Texas finishing in the SEC in their first year?
I mean, I think they'll do well. Their only real out of conference game they got to worry about is Michigan, but I don't think Michigan's the same Michigan that they were the past couple years. I think they definitely fell off. I mean, they've got Oklahoma, Georgia, Arkansas, A&M. I think those would be the games that they have to really work for, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, I think they'll do fine. I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they win the conference.
Do you think
I
do you
would.
think they're in it though? Do you think they're playing Georgia or Alabama or LSU or any of those teams? Do you think they're in there playing against one of those teams though?
I could definitely see them fighting for the SEC title. I could see it happen 100%. I would give them top 3 in the conference myself. Worst case scenario. So I think they'll be a playoff team 100%. We'll be interested to see how they perform against a more well-rounded conference with more of a gauntlet week in and week out compared to what they've been used to. I am excited to see the energy that Texas and Oklahoma bring to the SEC because they got some fun fan bases. They got some rowdy fans, so I'm
Yeah.
excited to bring them in and really increase that just game day feel. They're gonna bring some good games. I know that for a fact. I mean, look what they did with at Alabama. They made for some good television right there.
Yeah, and even won it at Alabama, which was,
Hmm.
one of those things that Saban's not really allowed a lot of teams to do is to win a game at Bama, one of those top 10 matchups. But finally, moving on. Again, this is something I asked Bobby, and I kind of just wanted to go through it with you real quick, just because I would love to get your take on this. So you got, how the college football playoffs worked. We even talked about this before. The top 5 teams, get a bid in. The conference teams get a bid in, and then of course you got the rest of the 7. And then also, looking at that, I believe what was it? It's either the runner-ups of those conference champs for the most part will probably get that home game, which will be played at the home stadium, not a neutral site. So real quick, who do you have winning the Big Ten?
Who do I
Who
have winning the Big Ten?
Big Ten?
Ooh,
Who do
I'll
you got?
go Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Yeah, I'll say Ohio State.
All right. Who do you got winning the SEC? Got
Oh, you
Georgia.
writing this down? Are you holding me to all this?
Yeah, yeah. We got
Oh
me,
boy,
Bobby. We got me, Bobby, and you now
All right, we
holding
got
us to
some
this on a post-it note. So
preseason brackets going. I like it.
yeah, preseason brackets.
Let's see. SEC, I'll say Georgia.
Okay, Georgia.
I am obviously biased, but I do believe they'll get first in the conference.
All right. Now we're gonna move on to the Big 12. Who do you got winning it over there? There's a lot of teams that can win it. A lot of teams that are in positions to win it as well. Who do you got winning on that side?
man, you know who I like what they did last year, and I hope that they build off of it for their own sake. I want to see Kansas do well. I
You
want
know,
I I I want to see that happen.
funny enough, Bobby said the same thing. He went with the Kansas
Oh, really?
Jayhawks as well. Yep. I went with Utah just because Cam Rising coming back. Technically, it's like his 5th or 6th year, just with the COVID rules and everything. Just a
Oh
guy
yeah,
who's
that
really
that
well
dude's older than
established.
us.
Yeah, just a guy who's well established in the not the Big 12, but just established with Utah and in football, making great decisions as well. I have Utah winning that one. But for the ACC, Florida State already losing their first week. Do you think that means they don't win the ACC, or do you have someone else winning the ACC this year?
Mm, yeah, that's knowing that already really changes
Yeah,
things.
because I think me and Bobby both went with Florida State pre Georgia Tech game, pre Georgia
Yeah,
Tech.
I think what I would have said, regardless, I think Florida State had so much turnaround. They're not the same team as last year.
Yeah,
I think Clemson definitely got better. I'm gonna say Clemson. They
all
they had a
right.
little rough year last year. I think they get back on track and they get back to their winning ways that they are used to.
So now that we got your championship teams, right? Let's move on
Okay.
to the rest, since obviously those 4 get an automatic bid, winning their conference champ. Let's move on to the next 8. Who do you got winning? Or sorry, who do you got making the college football playoffs with the next 8 teams?
Did I pick my one group of 5 team first?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Since they'll get one bid guaranteed.
Yeah.
Um, trying to think here. Who do I think will make it?
And I've seen a lot of Boise States. That's all I gotta say.
Boise State's not a bad shit. Trying to think. Oh, actually, I got a team. You know who I'm gonna throw out there? Appalachian State.
I knew it. I knew it because I also heard someone else
I
say
would love
App
to see them
State.
squeak in as a number 12. That would be great.
So App State is the last one. So now you got 7 making it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and run through those 7 real quick. Who do you
Okay.
have making it in first?
I guess in first,
Or
like
just
in
sorry.
order,
Let's
as
just
best
go
order as I can make it.
as best order as you can make it. Let's just say let's go from 11 down to 5.
11 down to 5.
Since we got Appalachian State at 12. Who are we going with at 11? Who do you think sneaks in there?
At 11, I'll say Miami.
Miami?
Yeah, I'll say they have a good year. I think they
And
squeeze on in.
and I'm just being difficult on you. We did not go in this order either. So you can go in whatever
Okay.
order you want. I'm just messing with you. But moving on, you got 6 more teams to make the college football playoffs this year in the 12-team playoff.
All right, let me jump around then. I'll go to number 5 then.
Okay.
I think Notre Dame number 5.
I like that
Am
pick
I
too.
Notre Dame fan? No, I personally hate their guts, but they're really good at making their way in. So
Yep.
let's see, number 6. I will say Texas.
Okay.
7. I'll go Ole Miss. I like Ole Miss this year. I think Kiffin's done a really good job on his recruiting trail.
Do you like Ole Miss even without Judkins there now going to Ohio State after transferring to there?
Yeah, that's a huge loss for them, but I think they'll still
Yeah.
be okay.
Okay. Now we got 4, 5, and 6, also known as 11, 10, and 9 in the bracket.
So what do I got open right now?
11, 10, and 9 is left.
11, 10, and 9. Well, I'll put Appalachian State. They'll be number 12, the 12
Yep.
seed.
Yep. So sorry, you have 10,
So
9,
so
and
it,
8 because you have Miami
10,
at
9, and 8.
yeah, you have Miami at 11.
Okay, for number 8, I'll say Penn State.
Okay, interesting. Do we have
9.
Oregon in there?
Honestly, no. I don't think Oregon has a
Whoa.
great year. I
Whoa,
think
I
I think
like that
they
take too.
fall off a little bit.
Okay. Okay.
What's it? 9? Is that where I'm at?
Yep.
I'll go Utah. And then
Yeah, one more.
one more at 10. What conference am I weak on right now? Because
So
I
right
mean, just how it's
now,
naturally going to work out is record's going to help, and if you're second or third in your conference, it's
you
going
have
to help you out.
3 SEC,
Uh-huh.
you have 2 ACC, you have
Mhm.
2 Big 12s, and then you
Mhm.
have sorry, Big 10 you have you have 2 Big 10s and then you have Notre Dame as an independent.
Big 12, I got 2.
You got 2. You got
ACC, I
Utah
got
and
2.
Kansas. Yep.
You know who I hate to watch, but they'll find a way to make it in with their boring style of football.
Who's that?
I think Iowa's that last team.
With Cade McNamara at the helm there.
They don't know how to score, but they know how to defend. And I think as far as records are concerned, they'll go and win every single game by 2 points each, and then they'll go and lose to the big dogs, but their record will end up being 9-3 or 10-2 kind of thing. So
Yeah.
I think they make it into the 12-team playoff purely based off of that fact alone.
Well, interesting. I like some of the takes here. I like
I'm
I
definitely shaking it up. I think
definitely
the
some
brand
interesting
new
ones in
styles
here.
make some shakeups.
I and
So.
and lastly, before we end the show here, I know we've gone on a little bit, but my biggest thing is, and I kind of noticed this in the Georgia Tech game. I think with the new, and this might just be me, but honestly, with the new helmet communication between the players and coaches, I think that kind of evens the playing field, even with some unranked teams compared to ranked teams. I mean, the skill gap is still there. Don't get me wrong. There's skilled, definitely better players on some teams than other. But I think, because they can talk on the helmet till 15 seconds on
Hmm.
the play. I honestly think a lot of teams will be able to compete with a lot of good teams now just because they have the coach in their ear being like, hey, if you see this coverage, check out to this. And now they have
Oh yeah.
this like training wheels.
And it definitely takes away some of that home field advantage. You go into a big stadium, a big ranked team, big powerhouse, and they're just blowing your eardrums out. You can't hear anything that's going on. Having that little voice in your ear now, that gives you a little more of an advantage when you're not at home anymore. Biggest problem, you see them just not being able to communicate. They're not able to get a snap off in time. They have to take the
Yeah.
penalty or they take the timeout. I think that definitely, like you said, evens the playing field a little bit, makes it a little more of a game for that away team now. So it'll be interesting to see how that works. Especially against two powerhouse teams. The team that's on the road, they now got a little more uh, weaponry in their arsenal.
And I think we can definitely see a lot of teams and like I was saying, I think a lot of teams will be able to keep up with a lot of other good teams this year. I really do. I just think
Hmm.
it really depends on how well the coach can communicate what they want to their quarterback and also to the defense as well. But honestly, I that was my takeaway from the Georgia game, honestly, or Georgia Tech game was I think the reason they kept up so well was because the communication, I think there was just very nice communication between Haynes King and the coach there for Georgia Tech.
Yeah, and all in all, I think we're in for a real treat, real good year. It's going to be brand new playoff system, real big shakeup with SEC and Big Ten. I think we're in for some good football this year. A lot of adversity, a lot of storylines. I'm excited to see what all unfolds. I think we'll have some surprises.
Well, and it's weird for me too, because like for instance, Montana State, they were a huge favorite spread going into that game, and they only won by 4 at the end. That was one of them as well. I think the spread was 13.5 for Montana State. SMU only won 29-24 against Nevada. They were a 27.5 spread favorite. And
Oh
that's what I'm
wow.
saying. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of these spreads with huge big spreads like against decent teams like Nevada and SMU, I generally, and this is what I'm saying, I'm just seeing this off of the first week zero, right? Georgia Tech
Mhm.
upset Florida State. Montana, who is a 2 touchdown favorite, only wins by 4. SMU, who is a 4 touchdown favorite, only wins by 5. I think the
Yeah.
helmet communication thing is giving a lot of quarterbacks a lot better uh just a lot better confidence in themselves and in the play call. Like, you have like for instance, Georgia is 13.5, right? Spread right now. Honestly, this year, with what I'm seeing so far with the communication, the helmet, I'd honestly take the spread of other teams like plus 13.5 on Clemson. I don't think they lose by 2 touchdowns like it says. I really don't,
Yeah,
honestly.
yeah. I mean, and being a Georgia guy, just based off of how they play and based off experience, never bet on Georgia to be on that positive side of it. That's not the game that they typically play. They don't go for the blowouts. They're too defensive minded to really run up the score like that. So I wouldn't expect it to be a two-score game like that.
Yeah, because
Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't Georgia Tech? Weren't they a double digit
yeah,
or wasn't
yeah, they were 13. I believe they were 10.5 was the line
yeah,
for that game.
right.
So that's what I'm saying. Like all these games with these lines that are just insane, like 2 touchdowns. Honestly, guys, I think I would go the opposite way every time. I would take the 14 point. I would give the opposing team 14 points any day because I just think a lot of these teams are going to be able to keep up now with these other teams and not get blown out just because a defensive coordinator sees what they come out in. They're like, hey, listen, if you see them motion or something like that, check into cover zero, or check out to a cover two or something like that, and I think they can understand and have a better sense of knowledge of like what's going on in front of them because even Penn State right now is 8.5 against West Virginia, even with Garrett Greeny there, a really solid quarterback for West Virginia. I that's what I'm saying. I would take West Virginia at home plus 8.5. I would. That's just me. I just think there's going to be a lot of close competition games this year than we've ever seen. So,
No, I would 100% agree. I got no objections there. Not a single one.
and I think it just makes it a lot more fun for college football, which is already exciting in the first place. But it's going to even make it more fun to see uh, these games fold out than we've seen before because it's just I don't know. Just looking at some of these sprays, they're pretty crazy, honestly.
Yeah. And I
So
will go on the record right now. You've got it recorded, so I can't say I didn't say it. For
what
Florida, obviously, big Florida hater here. I give them 3-9.
three
You
and
can come
nine.
back. You can come back to this time before week one. Come back to right here when I said they go 3-9.
I'm just gonna write
You're
it
gonna
on a
you're
post-it
gonna see
note.
Florida just implode.
Prediction: 3-9. Don't worry, I got it on a post-it note right here, everyone. I don't think it's gonna show. Yeah, it's not gonna show. It's not focusing, but no worries. I'll put it with this other bracket right here.
Hold me to
Yeah.
it.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, it's gonna be tough for Florida, but for a team who did beat Tennessee at home, I know it's on the road. I think Florida has only gotten a little bit better. Even though, as talking to a Florida fan, I can't believe Trevor's brother went to Georgia. That's such a backstab to Florida. I really think that's got to be, honestly, Parker, you have to agree with me. That's like the biggest backstab thing you can ever do, is go to your pretty much the biggest rival of that school and play for their
Oh yeah.
team.
I mean, you're going to see a lot more of that, especially with the NIL stuff going on, transfer
Yeah.
portal, how it's working now. You're seeing a lot more of people going to and from in-conference rivals, or in-state rivals for that matter. You're seeing a lot more of it, and I don't think it's going to get better in the short term. There's going to be a lot of those sort of, hey, this guy's paying me more. That's all I care about.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's show. Of course, we're going to have Parker back here for more stuff as soon as hockey gets started here in the next month, as well as more European football talk. And then, of course, every other sport that he watches, because he watches a lot: NFL, NCAA, everything but the NBA, because basketball. But anyway,
I
I
can't jump. I'm sorry.
we'll see you guys on the next. We'll see you guys on the next episode. Parker, give them a peace out, and I'll let you have the floor.
Bye-bye.
You
What are we talking about again?
landing on top of what?
What are we talking about?
Interesting. Well,
Oh, that's
I
weird,
mean,
dude.
you know, if you say so, man.